Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a houseplant tier list. This is a list that I created. All of these plants and photos I sourced from the internet, and I'm going to put all these plants and I'm going to rank, I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm going to rank all these plants in order of how cool I think they are. And if you don't agree with me, let me know in the comment section, but please be nice. I'm fragile. No, I'm not fragile. You can be mean. Before I get into this video though, I just want to tag everyone who thinks it'd be cool to do this video. I'm going to leave my tier link so that you guys can get to this page yourself, put all these plants in your own order that you think that you might want to make, or you can just sign up with Twitter. That's what I did, and then you just put all these photos into a folder and then you import it, and it's super easy. I thought it was gonna be difficult, but it wasn't. This is not sponsored, by the way. I'm just saying if anyone else wants to make a plant tier list that I could fill out that I didn't find all the pictures for, I think that'd be pretty cool. So the list that we're doing is basically like American wish list plants, and that doesn't mean that they're necessarily rare. Like there's a couple plants on here like Hoya, Carnosa, Crimson Queen, which are on people's wish list, but like it's not rare. These are basically just popular American houseplants, and I did as best I could to incorporate plants from all over the spectrum. Pretty much this is gonna be like what came out of my head. And I have a couple different varieties of each of these plants, but let's just get into it. Please remember to like and subscribe. Maybe you're binge watching my videos and you just forgot to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the community, and I do have a Patreon you guys can support me at. It is patreon.com/PlantMeAshley, and that is where we do all the stuff. Like that's where the whole community is. It costs $3 to join the Discord, and yeah. And I'm going to go in order from left to right. So there are some plants that are hiding beyond this little cursor where my screen is. But yeah, so if you see me looking over this way, that's because that's where my view window is, so I can see, like, that's where I see myself, and I'm really bad at not looking at myself while I'm recording in a setting like this. So, ooh, are you guys ready? Okay, so we're gonna start off with Monstera adansonii. This guy, I think, is a fat B. The reason I'm gonna say B is because it's not like the coolest house plant. Usually they get mealies, so it's like kind of difficult to deal with, but it's really nice if you get a really good healthy one. They're pretty easy to take care of, like, overall, as long as you're not overwatering them or giving them too much light or humidity. I think that's a solid B. Next we have Alocasia silver dragon. I'm gonna put as an A for Alocasia and Ashley. A because they're pretty easy to take care of as long as you have enough humidity. Like the ones I've been growing from bulbs have been doing really, really good. And on top of that, they're just like the most beautiful alocasia that exists ever, in my opinion. It's just like this frosty gore. It looks like a scale of a dragon, where there's like the other like dragon scale alocasias, right? But those don't look as incredible as that one. Then we have the Alocasia Frydek, which I also have to give a solid A because, well, I guess we'll give it a B because it's not as cool as A, and if that's A tier, then this has to be B tier. And the reason I love Alocasia Frydek so much is because it was my very first houseplant that I had for a really, really long time. I haven't been able to do good with them ever since Fred died. His name was Fred, my Alocasia Frydek, by the way. But he was definitely an S tier plant, but the one I have now is definitely B tier or even C tier. Okay, hi. I definitely just heard my neighbor walking up his stairs. We share a stairway, like, there's a wall that divides our stairway, but like we share it. And I definitely thought there was someone in my house. So the next plant on the list is this Anthurium, and I hate them. They're definitely an F tier. I see them everywhere, and I don't think they're pretty. I don't even like them in flower arrangements. Also, I just realized I don't need that headset on because there's no music coming through my headphones. It's not for me at all. Next we have Adipopoense, which is definitely an S tier plant. It looks like a Spiritus Sancti without the price tag, and it has gorgeous red abaxial services or axial service. The butt of it, like the back of it, looks amazing. And they're so easy to care for, and they grow so fast. Like there's literally no negative to owning this plant. Honestly, if you don't have like a ton of light, it's gonna grow in smaller leaves, but like it's gonna do that anyways because you don't live in Thailand unless you do. Anyways, S tier plant, 100%. Next we have the Alocasia aslanii. I'm honestly gonna have to give this plant B tier, which I'm gonna be crucified for because it's only the most popular Alocasia right now, like for sure. There's a ton of tissue cultures going on, but I think that's what bothers me. So like this Alocasia aslanii is not what the actual Alocasia aslanii looks like. The actual one is a lot lighter pink with a less less deep dark grooves. It's more of like a lighter gray, and it just overall it looks a lot cooler. IMO. So I'm gonna have to give this one B because it's not A tier and it's not S tier, but it's not C tier. That would be an insult. The next houseplant we have on our list is Philodendron Bilite, which is an A tier plant. This plant grows so fast, but not fast enough to be labeled as an S tier. Additionally, this plant needs like a pretty decent amount of light, and you do not want to overwater it. So it's just less easygoing than an adipopoense. Like I, at any like given time, always have at least like 3 or 4 or 5 different adipopoenses because you can just take care of a ton of them and it's fine. But the second that you get a ton of Bilite, it's just like a lot of work. So gorgeous plant, A tier plant, honestly, but like they're harder to grow. And again, all of this is so biased, so like if you get mad at me, you're welcome to make your own tier list and like prove me wrong or whatever, but yeah. Next plant is Philodendron Campos puerto anim. This is a B tier. I'm giving everything B. Honestly, like all these plants are really good. Yeah, but this is definitely a B tier plant because it's less cool than the micans, because the micans is like it doesn't like change shape. It's not a super morphing aeroid, and that's why people like the Campos puerto anim, because it is a super morphing aeroid and it looks like a micans when it's little, but then it gets bigger and it looks like a T-shape, like a Tesla logo. So it just depends on what you're looking for, and then also when it does get bigger, it does lose its velvetiness, which honestly I'm gonna give it a C because it loses its velvetiness, and like that's like kind of the whole point. Okay, the next houseplant we have on our list is Anthurium clarineum, and this one I have to give a B. And I'm actually gonna move Frydek down to C and Adansonii also down to C because those are not on the same level as these. Yeah, so the reason that Anthurium clarineum is at a B is because it's got a super low price now. Like last year they were so expensive. It was like the Anthurium. But this year its price is a lot lower. It's like, I don't know, $70 to $100, $125 depending on how big of a plant that you get. Super easy to take care of. Like you could have 20%, 30% humidity and like the plant wouldn't be happy with you, but it wouldn't die. It wouldn't grow, but it wouldn't die. And on top of that, it's just really easy to take care of. I'm not going to give it an A or an S because I don't think it's pretty enough. Its care requirements are super duper easy, and it is a good intro velvet leaf Anthurium if you want a velvet leaf Anthurium without having to do any of the work. The next houseplant on our list is Hoya Carnosa compacta monoloa, which gets in A tier. Actually, I'm going to give this plant an S tier because it's super easy to grow. It grows faster than Hoya Carnosa compacta variegata, which is the other the marginal variegated version of the plant. And it's just so pretty. Like I think that inner variegation is like the most beautiful variegation you can get on a plant, because instead of occurring on the outside and fading in, it occurs on the inside fading out, so you usually get a lot more different tones of green, and that's where you usually end up with like the minty look or like the creamy good look. And I don't know, I think it makes the whole plant just look more beautiful. I think that the green looks a lot more beautiful on the Monoloa compared to the Hoya Carnosa compacta variegata. And it grows so fast. It's so easy to take care of. You water it like once every month, maybe. It does have a really expensive price tag, but price is not a factor I think I'm really going to be using for S tier, because, I mean, those are the top plants. Also, I think I picked the wrong photo. I definitely did. Let's put this one back. This is the Monoloa. Okay. The next houseplant we have is Hoya Carnosa Crimson Princess, which I'm going to give B because it's definitely one of the most beautiful Hoyas for the lowest budget. It grows super fast and it's very easy to take care of. Easy. Next we have Hoya Carnosa Crimson Queen, which I'm going to give a C. The reason for C is because it's very easy for those plants to get very white, and unlike the yellowish white creamy variegation you get with the Crimson Princess and the Mauna Loa, when you get that white variegation, it can't photosynthesize at all, so it usually just rots. And it even, like, it looks good for like a day or two, and then it just usually rots off and looks sad. So that's why I have to give it a C tier. It's super cheap, easy to take care of, as long as you don't mind like picking dying leaves off every so often. So yeah. Then we have the Philodendron Dark Lord, and I'm gonna give this an A tier because it looks like a bloody Dracula like opening its cape. It's so spooky and creepy, which is like great because October is almost here, but it's really good. I'm not gonna lie. 10 out of 10. But I haven't had mine long enough to really like say, yeah, it's an S tier plant. Like, I've had my Mauna Loa and my Epipremnum forever. So I know those plants pretty well. I think that the Dark Lord looks like it's pretty easy to take care of. Looks like it'd be pretty easy to propagate. But until I know more, I'm going to leave it at A tier because it's really good. It's not S tier. Like, I feel like with these S tier plants, like, it's a gut feeling, and this is not a gut feeling, but it definitely is a 10 out of 10 A tier, 100%. Next, we have Monstera Deliciosa, which I'm going to give an S tier because even though it's not like super special, which it is, it's very special. And I used to be a Monstera Deliciosa hater, so the fact that I'm labeling it an S is like, I'm pretty big deal. But the reason that it's an S, super easy to grow, gets so big so fast. You need minimum like 45-50% humidity to just get it to be happy. Water it like once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how big of a pot is and how heavy-handed of a waterer you are. But other than that, this plant is so easy and so rewarding, and it's just like Monstera Deliciosa is like the symbol for houseplant collector. Like, when you see someone with a tattoo that you'd look at and be like, oh, that person likes plants, it's usually a Monstera tattoo. Like, or, you know, if you like know a lot about plants, maybe they have a clarineum or something like that. But Monstera tattoos are kind of like the symbol for like plant collector, and it's just a very iconic plant. So yes, Monstera Deliciosa S tier, and there's no white on it, so there's no chance of it like melting or anything. Very stress-free plant, in my opinion. Next, we have the Epipremnum ponatum alba virgata, and this is getting a solid C tier, which I know is so controversial because it's such a popular plant, but this plant rots so fast. And on top of that, it's an Epipremnum, which is like, not my favorite in general. And its price tag is way too high, in my opinion, for what it is. Like, a couple collectors hyped it up like a year and a half ago, like way higher than it should have been. The prices are finally starting to fall on it. Last year they were like $300. That's what I paid for the one that I got last year, which I ended up trading someone for varicosum. But in my opinion, it's just not $300 cool. It's not cool enough to have to deal with the stress of how fast the white on this plant rots off. And it looks pretty for like 2 minutes, and then it's like a baby, and you have to just take really good care of it. It needs a lot of high humidity. It's just annoying. Next plant on the list is the Florida Beauty, which is an A tier plant. Yeah, it's like one of the only plants on my wish list that I've never purchased. I did have a chance to buy one last year at Peace Love Happiness Club, and I'm just kicking myself that I didn't do it because they're so expensive now. Like, the one at Peace Love Happiness Club was like $120, and now it's like $600 for like a 2-leaf cutting. Which I don't understand how anyone thinks that's like a reasonable price to price your plants at for like a 2-leaf barely rooted cutting. But it's fine. People can price their plants how they want. All I'm saying is that this is a gorgeous plant. Its variegation typically doesn't come in completely white, so the odds of you losing that like whiter variegation are super low. And I saw one in person the other day, and it honestly like changed my life. So the next plant on our list is this Anthurium forgetii, which I'm gonna have to give, I don't know. I don't know where to put this one. Let's do this other one first. This is Anthurium forgetii. We're gonna give it a B. I think that they're both B tier. One of them is Anthurium Forgetii dark, and the other one is Anthurium Forgetii sparkly, or light, or whatever. But there are two different forms of Anthurium Forgetii. One of them is more of a teardrop shape, and the other one is more like obtuse, and it has sparkles on it. And they're both gorgeous. I feel like I needed to include them both because they're both very different plants in terms of how they look. Someone who didn't know plants would look at those two plants and be like, those aren't the same. But I love them a lot because of their round sinus. There's no like heart leaf sinus thing, and I love round plants. I think they're cool. Speaking of round plants, the next plant we have to talk about is the Philodendron gigas, which is an S tier plant, 100%, super easy to take care of, needs like 60-70% humidity, round sinus, gorgeous black velvet leaves, grows super fast. It doesn't get better. It literally doesn't get better, and Milanochryson in comparison to gigas is just nothing. It's nothing. The next houseplant on our list frustrates me, and it's going into... Okay, we're actually going to move Frydek, Adansonii, and Crimson Queen into D tier just because I just feel like it all needs to make sense. And these aren't on the same level as these. But Gloriosum is going to go in C tier because it's a really slow grower. It's honestly not that pretty. It's so overhyped, and it's way, way, way too expensive for what it is. And that's all I have to say. Next plant, we have the Hoya imbricata, which, I don't know. I haven't had this plant long enough. I'm going to give it B tier. And we're going to move this one down to C. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if one of them gets too long, it's going to bother me also. So yeah. So this one I'm putting in B tier because I haven't had it long enough to really know. I used to really hate this plant because it reminded me of Scale, like the plant pest. But now I really love it because I like how it suctions onto things, and I think that it looks really pretty mounted on moss. I also just got like a pretty big plant that I traded someone for, and I love it with my whole heart and soul. So I'm a little biased, but it's definitely B, but it's really hard to take care of, so it's definitely not A or S tier, and its price tag is pretty expensive. And it requires a lot of humidity to stay happy and a very delicate watering routine. It's got a very woody stem to it, so it's kind of like the Hoya caudata where you have to be really careful with how you treat it. Otherwise, you'll kill it. The next plant on our list is another Hoya. This is Hoya undulata, which in my opinion is an A tier plant. It's way, way cooler than the Hoya caudata. Its leaves are more like jungle and free looking. It just looks really cool altogether, honestly, and I really want one. These plants are really expensive though, like $200, $300 for like an actual established plant. So unless someone wanted to trade me, I will definitely never own one of those leaves. Like, it looks rough. It looks gruff. It looks like it's a rugged plant, and that's really what I like in my Hoyas, if you can't tell. The next houseplant on my list is the #1 houseplant ever, in my opinion, which is the Philodendron Milanochryson, and I would put this in a tier above all of them, so I'm going to put it at the very front. I just got this plant. I was so lucky. Someone actually traded me theirs. I sent them a sport variegated monstera, well, a top cutting with 3 leaves. I sent them the top cutting of my Monstera albo and then a pot of 5 pink princesses. And the trade, in my opinion, is still not fair. They felt like it was more than fair, but I personally don't think that it's fair. It's only like the coolest houseplant of all time. It looks like God just like sneezed on it and was like, yeah, that's good. But I don't know, I just love it. It's really pretty, and it seems to be decent to take care of. The next houseplant on my list is Hoya carrii. I'm going to give this a flat old D tier. The leaves look like paddles, which is kind of fine, but it's just not the coolest. Like, there's a lot of other cooler ones out there, and it's so slow growing and so expensive. And the care is pretty difficult, just because it's one of the more tough Hoyas to take care of, so definitely D tier. And then while we're at it, let's knock these little Hoya carrii pots down to F tier. Never buy those. They won't grow. Like, straight up, they won't grow. They're little petiole cuttings, and for those of you new houseplant parents who might not know, little petioles, like, you can't grow a plant from petioles. You have to grow it from stem, and there's no stem in those pots unless you know someone really nice who like potted up a little carry for you. But in those, usually when you see those at the store and they're like $5, carry are expensive Hoya for who knows why. And yeah, that will never grow into a plant, so don't ever buy them. Next we have Monstera Deliciosa Albo, which I'm going to give A tier. Very easy to take care of. You gotta kind of manage the white. Make sure that you're not buying any plants that have crazy like sectoral variegation, because that's kind of when you get into trouble with your white kind of melting away. But yeah, it's a really, really, really good houseplant. I've always had a couple of them at the same time, and they're just really good houseplants. A very staple houseplant collector's plant. The next houseplant we have is the Begonia Immaculata Whitey, which I'm going to give B level. It's a really good begonia, absolutely gorgeous, phenomenal. Care is a little bit more difficult, which is why I'm knocking it down a couple points. Begonia are just kind of like fickle in general. So like if you touch the leaves, like you have a pretty high chance of your hand bacteria getting stuck on the begonia leaf and it like just rotting. It's like a pretty general rule of thumb that you don't touch begonia leaves. But this one is a little hardier, so like you can kind of touch it, but like, hey, don't like put your whole finger pad on it, you know, like use your nail. And then the back of the leaves are this gorgeous, glossy, sparkly red color, and I've never seen anything like it. And on top of that, like the white speckles on it are just so gorgeous. So it's a B tier because they are cheap, so they're easy to get now. They weren't last year, but their care is just a little bit more difficult. Begonias are just more difficult in general, so yeah. The next houseplant on our list is, I think this is a normal Hoya Carnosa compacta. Yeah, it is. And we're gonna give this D tier. It grows really slow for how pretty it is. Like, it's not super pretty, and it's just not, it grows slow, it's super expensive, care is more difficult, and it's not pretty enough to justify any of those things. So it's gonna go D tier. And then while we're at it, let's do the Hoya Carnosa Crimson Queen compacta in C tier, because same thing, it's very expensive. Like, these are selling now for like $150, which, excuse me, like these were like $10-15 a couple months ago. I think there's just a shortage, but they're super duper pretty. Like, I sold one for $35 today. It's just my problem with them is how slow they grow. Again, this is the Crimson Queen variety, right? It's like the compacted version of the queen. So you will sometimes get stuck with leaves that are all white that are just going to like melt off, as compared to the Monaloa, which, because you have the white in the middle, it blends more with the green, which makes it a more yellowy variegation, and you're not going to lose those leaves. And for how expensive and pretty and gorgeous that plant is, the price is way more justified, especially for the fact that like you're not going to lose these all white leaves because like they don't exist. And the next plant on our list is the Philodendron Milanochryson, which I'm gonna give, I don't even know, I think C tier, because they're really, 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 really expensive. They grow slower in comparison to gigas, and they have like, again, the heart-shaped sinus. So if you like heart-shaped leaves, like the plant, you're gonna like that. The leaves are also less dark than the gigas, and the only reason I'm comparing it so much to the gigas is just because they're like basically the same plant, just like barely different shape. Next we have, this is Monstera Deliciosa Aurea. I'm gonna give this a solid A tier as well. Easier to take care of because there's no white on it. You're not gonna lose, like, you're not gonna risk it like melting into oblivion, and all of it can photosynthesize instead of only the green parts being able to, and like the whites can't. So and it's just so pretty. It is expensive. It is a considerable price leap up in a category as compared to the Monstera Deliciosa Albo, probably $200 or $300 more in general standardly. And while we're at it, let's do the Sport Variegated Monstera, which I think is an S tier. It is super duper expensive, so your best bet for finding these is, or to get one, is to find them at a grocery store, which is why it's an S tier. You'll never find, unless you're crazy lucky, an Aurea or an Albo at a grocery store, but because sport variegation is barely there and it's barely noticeable unless you're really looking for it, you have a higher chance of finding it in the wild, and it's going to be priced like $30 to $40 because the person who's in charge of the plants at your store or big box store probably missed it and they didn't see it because, again, the variegation is barely there. And overall, it's just really nice. It's my favorite Monstera that I have, my sport variegated one. Next we have Monstera obliqua. I'm giving this a B. I don't understand the hype. I get that it's like cool and rare or whatever, but I feel like that's one plant that people just only like because it's rare. But I'm just like picky with Monstera in general. I don't think Monstera are all that cool unless it's a deliciosa. But again, maybe my opinion will change, and I am obviously acknowledging that it is a really cool plant, but I think for its price, how difficult it is to take care of, how difficult it is to get a hold of, and it's just like generally how difficult, like it's a difficult plant. It's getting a B ranking from me. And the next plant we have is the Philodendron White Knight. D tier. I don't like it. I've always, like, people, whenever they list those, it's always like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's literally never variegation on them, like, ever. People just, like, list them, and they'll be like $150, $200 White Knight, and there's, like, barely any variegation on it. On top of that, unlike the White Princess, it doesn't have red petioles, which is kind of important. Let's jump through the other ones. We have the White Princess, which A tier, 100%. Actually, S tier. S tier all the way. Phenomenal plant. The white doesn't melt. It has red heckin' lined petioles, which is so incredible, and it's so much cooler than a pink princess because it's white variegation. Red pink variegation is, you know, kind of cool, but I'm such a hoe for white variegation, and just the way that white princesses usually look is just iconic. So yes, S tier, 100%. I do think I'm gonna move Gigas down to A tier, and Monstera deliciosa also down to A tier, because even though Monstera deliciosa is like the pinnacle of like this, like it's like the logo for the houseplant community basically, I feel like the S tier plants need to be these like gorgeous, these like godlike plants, right? Which definitely those ones all are. Okay, the next plant is going to be S tier. Paradiso Verde. This is variegated Bilite, which is like the coolest plant ever. The only problem is that it's very expensive and it's easy to get a hold of, but it's very expensive. So unless you're like have an extra couple $1,000s to spare, and you don't have a friend who's really nice who wants to trade you, you're kind of stuck paying like a ton of money for it. I think it is a very gorgeous plant. It's very highly sought after by like pretty much everyone who collects plants. So, like whenever someone gets one, it's like, oh my god, congratulations. It's like having your first baby. Not hard to get. It's a rare plant, but like, you can find one. And yeah, I don't know. It's really pretty. Some of them have like some pink variegation spots on it, which is just amazing. So, yeah. The next plant we have after that is the Philodendron Paradiso Verde, which I'm going to give B. Basically, it's a different type of variegated Bilite. And the variegation can very, very easily revert, and on top of that, they're like $300 or $400 per plant. I was lucky I got mine in a sponsor package from Aroid Market, so I didn't have to pay for mine, which is the only reason I have one. Because I don't think that their variegation pattern warrants how expensive they are. The next houseplant on this list is the Pink Princess, which I'm going to give C tier. The reason I'm giving it C tier is because of its price. It's not the coolest or prettiest plant. It looks muddy a lot of the time, in my opinion. Like, it could look a lot cooler than it does. And some pink princesses I would give an A tier or even a B tier. Most of them, I don't like how they look, and if you have to be picky with how a plant looks, like all of these dark form Frigitii look the same. None of these pink princesses look the same, and most of them look super ugly. So the fact that people are charging this like super high price for a plant that like none of them look the same, and most of them look terrible, and they die so fast. Like, don't buy a reverted pink princess and think that just because you give it a lot of light, like, the pink's gonna come back. Like, that's not how variegation works. It's all in the stem. Next, we have Alocasia poly, F tier. No one can keep them alive. They're stupid expensive. They feel like plastic. They look like silk plants. Don't like them. We have the Philodendron, I can't remember its name. We'll come back to it. This is the Philodendron Spirit of Sanctity, S tier plant, legendary plant. This is Tony from Arian Botanicals holding their Spirit of Sanctity, him and Tyler's. And it's such a gorgeous plant. I mean, it's godly. It's like the godliest plant. I'm going to put these in order of how cool I think they are. Okay. The next house plant we have on our list is Philodendron Strawberry Shake, which I think is an A tier. This plant, stupid expensive, of course. Pretty easy care, generally. And they usually look beautiful. Like, you don't usually see, like, unlike pink princesses, which are, like, usually kind of muddy and, like, dark colored. With strawberry shakes, they're usually really pretty. So, the odds of you getting one that you, like, don't like are super duper low. So, A tier. Next, we have variegated Philodendron Domesticum, which I'm going to give also A tier, just because it's really pretty. And most of its variegation that it tends to get is yellow, so it can photosynthesize, and it won't just like die on you, you know? Then we have the variegated Philodendron Heteroraceum, which I'm going to give B tier. The only reason this plant gets B tier is because it's stupid expensive. Most people are getting away selling these right now for $150 to $200 for a 2-node unrooted cutting. This plant is a very popular plant as of very recently, so that's the only reason it gets B tier. Its variegation is A tier, its care is S tier, but its price is honestly C or D tier, so it's going to average out right in the middle here in B tier. Next we have the variegated Alocasia frydek, which I also think is A tier. The reason I think it's also A tier is because the variegation on those, I guess I should say the only reason it wouldn't be A tier is because you can't really control the variegation on Alocasia. Like, if your plant decides to revert, then you can't just like cut it back to like start it over because it doesn't come from nodes. Like, Alocasia don't have stem. They have bulbs and petioles, and their petioles might even have a different name, and then they have their leaves. But you can't cut it back to the stem to like keep it going. But other than that, the care, from what I've seen, is really easy. They're gorgeous. They look like milky green puffy clouds, and they're so pretty. Next we have the Anthurium wendlingeri, which I think is an S tier plant. It's super gorgeous. The care is very difficult and the price is difficult, but I think that because of how cool the inflorescence looks and how gorgeous and like deep and velvety green the pendant leaves are, like, it's so worth it. I think it is the coolest Anthurium that exists. I love it. The last 3 plants we have on our list, we have Philodendron Mottled Whipple Way, which I've heard, could be wrong, I have heard that it is a sport variegation hybrid of Jose Buono. That could be completely wrong, but I saw it on a couple different people's Instagrams where they were saying that, and most houseplant information is spread word of mouth, and it was from a reputable person. But I can't prove it, so like, don't be like, oh yeah, Ashley said this, because it's like, I can't prove it, but I saw it a couple different times. So basically this is like all white variegation, creamy, and then it fades into like a light minty green. I'm gonna give it B tier. I think that they're gorgeous. It was my second ever wishlist philodendron. I saw it right after I saw a photo of the Ilsamanii, which is this houseplant up here, and I just thought it was so gorgeous. And it's been on my wish list forever, and I had a chance to buy one a while ago, but I really prefer the immature version of that plant, so I don't think I'd ever spend money on it unless it was like the immature version. It looks so cute. Last 2 houseplants we have here are the Philodendron Ring of Fire. I remembered its name. Whoops. And I'm going to give it D tier only because it's a crawler. So that means it takes a really, really long time to grow. These get leaf blight so easy, like spotted leaf blight, like even just normal jungle boogies and just like saber-tooth whatever philodendrons, like they have so many different common names. They just get blight so easy, and on top of that there's spider mite magnets because of the shallow divots on the leaf. And the variegation is pretty like tumultuous. Like you could get a super variegated leaf in one leaf, and then like the next couple leaves could just be like green. And propagating them, like forget about it, it's a crawler. So the nodes are like this close together, like way close. It's a pretty plant, but also the reason it's D tier is it's so expensive for what it is. Same thing with Caramel Marble. I would also give Caramel Marble a D tier just because it's way too expensive for what it is. And lastly, we have the Philodendron Verrucosum, which is going to go A tier. And the reason it's getting A tier is because it's perfect. It's, in my opinion, one of the most perfect philodendron out there. The only reason it gets A tier, not S tier, is because its care is so difficult and propagating it is so difficult and it gets root rot so easy, but it's A tier because it's velvety and fluffy and perfect and wonderful, and I couldn't ask for anything better, honestly, and I'd die for this plant. Well, anyways, here is my list. So in the top row for S tier, we have Philodendron ilsamanii, Philodendron spiritus sancti, Philodendron variegated bilite, Philodendron white princess, Monstera variegata sport, Philodendron adipopoense, Hoya monoloa, and Anthurium wendlingeri. Then in A tier we have Alocasia silver dragon, Philodendron bilite, Philodendron dark lord, Philodendron Florida hybrid beauty, Hoya undulata, Monstera deliciosa albo variegata, Monstera deliciosa alba or Aurea variegata, Philodendron gigas, Monstera deliciosa, Philodendron strawberry shake, Philodendron domesticum, Alocasia frydek variegata, and Philodendron verrucosum. Then in B tier, we have Alocasia aslanii, Anthurium clarineum, Hoya Carnosa crimson princess, Anthurium forgetii, Hoya imbricata, Begonia maculata whitei, Monstera obliqua, Philodendron paradiso verde, Philodendron heteroraceum variegata, and Philodendron mottled whippleway. Then in C tier, we have Philodendron Campos portoanum, Epipremnum ponatum albo variegata, Philodendron gloriosum, that was a cute little stutter, Anthurium forgetii dark form, Hoya carnosa compacta variegata, normal form, and then Philodendron Milanochryson and Philodendron pink princess. Then in D tier, we have Monstera adamsonii, normal form. The other forms, I think narrow form could be a C tier, but round form is definitely F tier. And then we have the Alocasia frydek, the Hoya carnosa crimson queen, the Hoya carrii, the Hoya carnosa compacta, the Philodendron white knight, and the Philodendron ring of fire. Then in F tier, we have the plastic looking Anthurium, little Hoya carrii hearts that will never grow, that are usually like $25 to $30 or like $12 if you have a good local store. And then we have Alocasia poly. So I hope that you guys liked this. You guys will be able to find the link to this template. It's going to be the third link in the description. I'll have it all labeled for you. If you want to make one of these, please tag me so that I can see. I mean, even if you don't want to make a video, screenshot it, share it to Instagram. Let me know how you would have rearranged these plants. And then I think I might make some more of these. I might do like a Philodendron only one or Monstera only one. Or if someone wants to make me those lists and then send them my way, I will credit you and then share that link with other people and make a video myself. But I had a lot of fun doing this. I got to also use my webcam, which is it's the webcam I used to stream. I stream on Alt1 Ashley, which is my second channel, which you can totally go check out. But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. I definitely made a very big list. Like, there's quite a couple plants that I worked my way through. I think there's 41 plants here total. I'm very happy with this list. I think maybe this Begonia maculata could go down a row. I'm trying to not put them in order of like most rare. I'm trying to put them in order of what I think are the coolest, which is why obviously Crimson Princess is in the ranks of aslanii and forgetii and imbricata and obliqua. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and tweet me at PlantMeAshley. I do have a Patreon if you want to support me there. It's patreon.com/PlantMeAshley, and that is where we do all of the Plant Me Ashley hangout, plant swap, plant sales stuff. I sold a couple plants on there the other day. We did a live voice chat for 6 hours the other day. It was so much fun. People would hop out to go do chores and then come back and hang out and hop out and then come back. So much fun. It costs $3 to join the Discord. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next houseplant section, and I hope you have a really good day. And please, I want to see you guys. I want to see how you guys would rank these. So either make a video and say I tagged you, be like, I was tagged by Plant Me Ashley, because I want everyone to make this video, but I know that like you have to be able to record your screen to do it and whatever. So yeah, make the video. I want to see it. Screenshot and send me what your completed tier looks like, because I'm super interested to see. So Other than that, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.